What happens when a single playful kiss at the office turns into a public reckoning at your own front door? How did my harmless joke end with me staring at legal documents and my husband, once so quiet, walking away without a word? Can anyone really blame me for wanting to feel alive, or am I the villain in my own story? The company restaurant buzzed with after-work energy as I adjusted my blouse and checked my reflection in my phone camera. The manufacturing firm's quarterly celebration was in full swing, and I felt electric. At 32, I deserved to feel noticed, admired, alive. "Althea, you look amazing tonight," Brett Langley said, sliding up beside me at the bar. My boss's cologne mixed with the scent of whiskey on his breath, and I felt that familiar flutter in my stomach. "Thanks, Brett. You clean up pretty well yourself," I replied, letting my fingers brush his arm. Across the room, I spotted Miles nursing a beer, his accountant's reserve making him blend into the background as usual. "Your husband seems thrilled to be here," Brett chuckled, following my gaze. "Oh, you know Miles. He's not exactly the life of the party." I rolled my eyes playfully. "Some of us know how to have fun, though." The music thumped louder as more coworkers gathered around us. Someone had started taking videos, and I felt the intoxicating pull of being the center of attention. "Come on, Althea, show us how the HR department really parties," called out Jessica from accounting, holding up her phone. "Yeah, give us some excitement," added Marcus from the floor. I glanced at Brett, whose eyes sparkled with amusement and something else. The moment felt electric, dangerous, perfect. "You want excitement?" I laughed, the alcohol making me bold. "How about this for team spirit?" Before anyone could react, I grabbed Brett's face and planted a dramatic kiss on his cheek, lingering just long enough to make it unmistakably flirtatious. The crowd erupted in cheers and wolf whistles. "Now that's what I call dedication to company morale," Brett laughed, his hand briefly touching my waist. Through the chaos of phones recording and people laughing, I caught sight of Miles's face. The color had drained from his features, his beer glass frozen halfway to his lips. "Oh, come on, honey," I called out to him, still riding the high of attention. "It's just a joke, team building." But Miles was already setting down his drink and grabbing his jacket. He moved through the crowd without a word, his jaw set in that way that meant trouble. "Miles, where are you going?" I followed him toward the exit, suddenly aware that maybe I'd pushed too far. "Home," he said simply, not even looking back. "It was just a kiss on the cheek. Don't be so dramatic." He paused at the door, finally meeting my eyes. Was it Althea? Because it didn't look that way to everyone recording it. The door closed behind him with a soft click that somehow felt louder than a slam. I stood there for a moment, the party continuing behind me, before forcing a laugh and returning to the group. "Sorry about that, everyone. My husband's just tired from work. You know how it is." Brett patted my shoulder sympathetically. "Don't worry about it. Some people just don't know how to have fun." But as the night wore on, I noticed people whispering, phones buzzing with notifications. By the time I got home 2 hours later, my own phone was lighting up with messages. The apartment was dark except for the glow from Miles's laptop in the living room. He was sitting on the couch, still in his work clothes, staring at the screen. "What are you doing up?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "Watching my wife kiss her boss," he replied without looking up. "Apparently it's already making the rounds on social media." My stomach dropped. "Miles, I can explain." "Can you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks pretty self-explanatory." I moved closer and saw the video playing on his screen. From this angle, with the lighting and the way I'd grabbed Brett's face, it looked intimate. More intimate than I'd intended. "It was just a joke, Miles. Everyone was having fun, and I got caught up in the moment." "A joke." He finally looked at me, and I saw something I'd never seen in his eyes before. Disappointment mixed with something harder. "Is that what you call flirting with your boss in front of half the company?" "I wasn't flirting. God, you're so paranoid. It was one kiss on the cheek. You're acting like I had an affair. Miles closed the laptop slowly. Maybe I'm just tired of being married to someone who thinks humiliating me in public is funny. He stood up and walked toward our bedroom, leaving me standing in the living room with my phone buzzing incessantly. I looked down to see a text from my sister Sienna. "Girl, you are trending. That video is everywhere." My hands started shaking as I scrolled through the notifications. The video had been shared across multiple platforms, tagged with the company name, and people were commenting. Some laughing, some shocked, some making crude jokes about office affairs. But it was the final text that made my blood run cold. From an unknown number. "Your husband deserves better. Everyone at Morrison Manufacturing is talking about this." I rushed to the bedroom to find Miles already in bed, facing away from me. "Miles, we need to talk about this. I think you've said enough for one night, Althea." As I lay awake staring at the ceiling, I could hear my phone buzzing from the living room. Each notification felt like another nail in a coffin I'd built with one stupid, impulsive moment. But it was just a joke. Why couldn't anyone see that? I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. The video from last night had exploded overnight, shared across Facebook, Instagram, and even TikTok. My hands trembled as I scrolled through comment after comment. That poor husband just sitting there watching HR lady getting too friendly with management. This is why I don't bring my wife to work events. Miles was already gone when I stumbled to the kitchen. A note on the counter read, "Taking Nina to school. We need to talk tonight. M." Even his handwriting looked angry. My phone rang. Darla, my mother. "Althea, honey, what is this video Janice sent me?" "Mum, it's not what it looks like. It was just a silly joke at the company party." "A joke? Sweetheart, you're all over the internet kissing your boss while your husband watches. How is that a joke?" I paced the kitchen, my coffee growing cold. Everyone's overreacting. It was one kiss on the cheek. Miles is being dramatic, and now everyone's making it into something it's not. Maybe you should apologize to Miles and... Apologize for what? Having fun? God, why is everyone acting like I committed a crime? After hanging up, I decided to take control of the narrative. If people wanted drama, I'd give them honesty instead. I crafted an Instagram story over my morning latte. "Last night was amazing. Sometimes you have to break out of your shell and live a little. Life's too short to worry about what everyone thinks. Some people know how to have fun. Others just watch from the sidelines. #no regrets. #living my best life." The responses came flooding in. Sienna immediately commented, "Yes, Queen. Show them how it's done." But others weren't so supportive. "Maybe think about your family before living your best life." Your husband looked mortified. "This is so embarrassing." At work, the atmosphere was thick with whispers. I held my head high, walking through the office, but I could feel every pair of eyes tracking my movement. Brett nodded politely when I passed his office, but didn't invite me in for our usual morning coffee chat. "Althea," called Janet from HR, my supervisor. "Could I see you for a moment?" My stomach clenched as I followed her into her office. "I'm sure you're aware that there's been some discussion about last night's events." "It was just a company party, Janet. People were having fun." "I understand that. However, we need to be mindful of how our actions reflect on the company. Perhaps it would be best to keep things more professional going forward." "Are you disciplining me for kissing someone on the cheek?" "I'm advising you to consider the optics of your behavior. That's all." The conversation left me fuming. I texted Sienna. "Everyone at work is acting like I'm some kind of criminal. It's insane. They're just jealous you have the guts to live your life. Miles needs to get over it." But when I got home that evening, Miles was waiting in the living room with a printed stack of papers, screenshots of my Instagram story, comments from the video, and what looked like a timeline written in his meticulous handwriting. "We need to talk," he said, his voice eerily calm. Finally, I was wondering when you'd stop giving me the silent treatment. Althea, do you see this? He held up the printouts. This is what our daughter's friends' parents are seeing. This is what your coworkers are sharing. This is what my family is asking me to explain. I can't control what other people do with a harmless video. Harmless? His voice cracked slightly. You humiliated me in front of everyone we know, then posted about how people like me just watch from the sidelines, while people like you live your best life. That's not what I meant, isn't it? Because it sure sounds like you think I'm boring and you deserve better. I sat down across from him, trying to find the right words. Miles, you're being too sensitive about this. It was one moment at a party. You're making it bigger than it is. Am I? Because your sister seems to think you should leave me. Your boss hasn't spoken to you today, and Nina asked me why Mummy was kissing someone on her friend's phone. That stopped me cold. Nina saw it. Kids at school showed her. She's 8 years old, Althea. She came home crying, asking if Mommy doesn't love Daddy anymore. Guilt twisted in my stomach, but I pushed it down. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're making her upset by acting like something terrible happened. If you'd just laughed it off like a normal person, none of this would be a problem. Miles stared at me for a long moment. You really believe that, don't you? That this is my fault for not finding it funny? I think you're choosing to be hurt instead of choosing to trust your wife. He gathered up his papers and stood. I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight. Miles, come on, don't be ridiculous. But he was already walking away. I heard the guest room door close, followed by the click of the lock. I tried to focus on my phone, scrolling through supportive messages from Sienna and a few friends. But I couldn't shake the image of Nina crying, asking if Mommy still loved Daddy. Maybe I'd gone too far, but Miles was overreacting. If he'd just supported me instead of making me feel guilty, we could have weathered this together. I fell asleep alone in our king-size bed, the house feeling bigger and emptier than ever before. The next morning, I found Miles in the kitchen, making Nina's lunch with military precision. Our daughter sat at the table, picking at her cereal, unusually quiet. Good morning, sweetheart, I said, kissing the top of Nina's head. She didn't look up. Daddy, can I stay at Grandma Janice's house tonight? Nina asked softly. Miles paused in spreading peanut butter. Why would you want to do that, honey? Because you and Mommy are fighting, and it makes my tummy hurt. I felt a stab of guilt but forced a bright smile. We're not fighting, baby. Daddy's just tired from work. Right, Miles? Miles met my eyes over Nina's head, his expression unreadable. Right, just tired. But I could see the distance in his gaze, the careful way he avoided touching me as he moved around the kitchen. After they left, I decided to take control of the situation. If Miles wanted to be stubborn, I'd show him what a united family looked like. I sent a group text to both our families. Family dinner at our place Saturday, 6 p.m. Can't wait to see everyone. The responses came in quickly. Sienna. Wouldn't miss it. Oscar's coming too. Darla. I'll bring dessert, honey. Graham, Miles's father. We'll be there. But Janice's response made my chest tighten. I don't think that's appropriate right now, Althea. I called her immediately. Janice, what do you mean it's not appropriate? It's just family dinner. After what happened at your work party. Althea, I'm disappointed in you. Miles is my son, and watching him hurt like this breaks my heart. He's not hurt, he's being dramatic. It was one kiss on the cheek. You're acting like I had an affair. The way you've been posting about it online, bragging about living your best life, while my son suffers in silence, that's not the woman I thought my son married. I can't believe you're taking his side without even hearing my perspective. I've seen the video, Althea. I've read your posts. What more perspective do I need? The line went dead. I stared at my phone, fury building in my chest. Miles had been poisoning his family against me, making me look like the villain when all I'd done was have a little fun. When Miles came home that evening, I was ready. Your mother refuses to come to dinner Saturday. I know. She called me. Did you tell her not to come? I told her the truth when she asked how I was doing. The truth? You mean your version where I'm some kind of monster for kissing someone on the cheek? Miles set down his briefcase and looked at me with tired eyes. Althea, do you want to know what the truth is? The truth is that my wife publicly flirted with her boss, humiliated me in front of dozens of people, then went online to brag about it and mock me for being upset. That's the truth. I never mocked you. Some people know how to have fun, others just watch from the sidelines. What did you mean by that? I felt heat rise in my cheeks. That wasn't about you specifically. It was posted hours after you kissed another man while I watched. Who else could it be about? Saturday arrived, and despite Janice's absence, I was determined to show everyone that our family was fine. I spent all day cooking, cleaning, setting the perfect table. When the doorbell rang, I answered with my brightest smile. Sienna, Oscar, come in, come in. My sister looked gorgeous as always, her blonde hair perfectly styled, her outfit effortlessly chic. She hugged me tight and whispered, "How are you holding up with all this drama?" "I'm fine. Everyone's just overreacting." Darla arrived next with a chocolate cake, followed by Graham carrying a bottle of wine. Miles emerged from his study to greet everyone, playing the perfect host despite the tension I could feel radiating from him. "Where's Janice?" Darla asked as we gathered in the living room. "She wasn't feeling well," Miles replied smoothly, but I caught the look Graham gave him. Dinner started pleasantly enough. Oscar regaled us with stories from his construction job. Darla fussed over Nina, and I felt like maybe we could get through this. Then Sienna pulled out her phone. "Oh my God, Althea, have you seen the comments on the TikTok version? It has like 50,000 views now." The table went silent. Nina looked up from her mashed potatoes with confused eyes. "Sienna," I said quickly, "maybe we shouldn't—" "No, this is hilarious. Listen to this one. Plot twist, she's getting promoted to head of HR. And this one, when your wife has more game than you." "Sienna, stop." Miles's voice was quiet but firm. "Oh, come on, Miles. You have to admit it's kind of funny. I mean, Althea's basically famous now." "Mommy's famous?" Nina asked, perking up. Graham cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should change the subject." But Sienna was on a roll. "I still can't believe you're making such a big deal about this, Miles. It was just a kiss. You should be proud that your wife is confident enough to—" "Enough." Miles stood abruptly, his napkin falling to the floor. "Nina, why don't you go play in your room for a bit?" "But I'm not done eating." "Now, please." Nina scrambled down from her chair, casting worried glances back at us as she disappeared down the hallway. "Miles, sit down," I said, embarrassment burning through me. "You're ruining dinner." "I'm ruining dinner." He turned to face the table, his usual calm completely gone. "My wife humiliates me publicly. My sister-in-law thinks it's entertainment, and I'm ruining dinner by asking for basic respect in my own home." "Miles, honey," Darla said gently, Maybe I should what? Pretend it's funny that my wife kissed another man. Laugh along while everyone makes jokes about how she has more game than me. Smile while my daughter's classmates show her videos of her mother acting inappropriately." The room fell dead silent. I could hear the kitchen clock ticking, Nina's footsteps upstairs, the distant hum of traffic. "You're being dramatic," I said finally, my voice smaller than I intended. Miles looked at me for a long moment, then walked to the coat closet and pulled out his jacket. "Where are you going?" I called after him. "Out. I'll be back later to say goodnight to Nina." The front door closed with a soft click, leaving us all staring at each other across the ruins of my perfect family dinner. "Well," Sienna said after a moment, "he's really milking this, isn't he?" But even she sounded less certain than before. That night, after everyone had gone home and Nina was asleep, I found Miles in his study. He was sitting at his desk with a legal pad, writing in his careful handwriting. "What are you working on?" I asked. He didn't look up. "Just some notes." "Notes about what?" About this situation, about what happens next. Something cold settled in my stomach. What do you mean, what happens next? Finally, he raised his eyes to meet mine. I mean, I can't keep living like this, Althea. Something has to change. Change how? But he just turned back to his legal pad, his pen moving across the paper in steady, deliberate strokes. I stood there for another minute, waiting for him to explain, but he acted like I wasn't even there. As I walked back to our empty bedroom, I noticed his calendar on the desk. Monday had an entry I'd never seen before. Downtown, consultation, 2 p.m. Monday morning arrived grey and drizzly, matching my mood perfectly. Miles left early without saying goodbye, and Nina barely spoke during breakfast. The house felt like a tomb. At work, the whispers had died down, but I could still feel the weight of people's judgment. Brett had been polite but distant, and I found myself eating lunch alone for the first time in months. I tried calling Miles around noon, but it went straight to voicemail. His consultation appointment nagged at me like a splinter. Hey, it's me. Call me back when you get this. We need to talk. But he didn't call back. When I got home, Miles was already there, sitting at the kitchen table with Nina, helping her with homework. They both looked up when I entered, but neither smiled. How was everyone's day? I asked with forced brightness. Fine, Nina mumbled, not meeting my eyes. Good, Miles replied, equally flat. I tried to join their homework session, but Miles efficiently packed up Nina's books. You're all done, sweetheart. Why don't you go watch some TV before dinner? Once Nina was gone, I cornered him. How was your consultation? Miles paused in wiping down the table. What consultation? I saw it on your calendar. Downtown, 2 p.m. Just a work thing. What kind of work thing requires a consultation downtown? The kind that's none of your business. His tone was so cold it made me step back. Miles, what's happening to us? We used to tell each other everything. Did we? Because I'm pretty sure I didn't know my wife was the type of person to kiss her boss at company parties. We keep coming back to this. It was one mistake, one moment of poor judgment. How long are you going to punish me for it? Punish you? He laughed bitterly. Althea, I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting myself. From what? But he just walked away, leaving me standing alone in the kitchen with more questions than answers. That night, I waited until Miles was asleep in the guest room before creeping into his study. His desk was locked. When had he started locking his desk? But his computer was still open. I tried his usual passwords, but they'd all been changed. Even his phone had a new passcode. Frustrated, I tried the desk drawers again. The top one was locked, but the bottom drawer opened to reveal files I'd never seen before. Bank statements, copies of our mortgage, Nina's school records, even our marriage certificate. At the very back, I found a manila folder labeled Documentation. Inside were printouts of the party video from multiple angles, screenshots of my Instagram posts, and, my blood ran cold, a handwritten log of dates and times going back weeks. March 15th, I came home 2 hours late from work drinks. Strong cologne smell, defensive when questioned. March 22nd, a mentioned B, boss, 3 times during dinner conversation, compared me unfavorably to his ambition. April 3rd, found text from B on A's phone. You looked great today. That dress was perfect. I claimed it was about presentation to clients. April 10th, company party incident, video evidence attached. My hands shook as I read through months of careful observations, each entry dated and detailed. Miles had been watching me, documenting everything, building some kind of case against me. At the bottom of the folder was a business card, Davidson and Associates, Family Law. I photographed everything with my phone, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure it would wake the whole house. This was insane. Miles was treating our marriage like a legal case, collecting evidence like I was some kind of criminal. But evidence of what? I'd never had an affair. The worst thing I'd done was kiss Brett on the cheek at a party. Unless, I thought about all those late nights at the office, the text messages, the way Brett and I flirted. It was harmless, just workplace banter, but through Miles's eyes. I heard footsteps in the hallway and quickly shoved everything back into the folder. By the time Miles appeared in the doorway, I was sitting innocently at his computer. "What are you doing in here?" "I was looking for the Netflix password. Mine isn't working." "It's on the refrigerator." "Oh. Right." He watched me leave, his eyes following my every movement. I felt like a suspect under interrogation. The next morning, I confronted Brett at work. "We need to talk," I said, closing his office door behind me. "Althea, I don't think that's a good idea. After what happened at the party..." "That's exactly what I want to talk about. My husband is acting like we're having an affair." Brett's face went pale. "Are we?" The question hung in the air between us. Were we? We'd never crossed any physical lines beyond that kiss, but the flirting, the late-night texts, the way my heart raced when he smiled at me. "No," I said finally. "Of course not." "Then why are you here?" "Because he's building some kind of case against me, taking pictures, keeping logs, talking to lawyers." "Lawyers?" Brett stepped back from me. "Althea, maybe we should keep our interactions strictly professional from now on." "You're abandoning me too?" "I'm protecting both of us. If your husband is involving lawyers, the last thing either of us needs is to give him more ammunition." I left his office feeling more alone than ever. Even Brett, who'd encouraged my attention for months, was distancing himself now that there were consequences. That afternoon, I called Sienna. "Miles is losing his mind. He's documenting everything I do, talking to divorce lawyers, treating me like a criminal." "Divorce lawyers? Seriously?" "I found business cards, legal documents, everything. He's been planning this for weeks." "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. Maybe I should talk to a lawyer too." "Or maybe you should just leave him first. Beat him to the punch." "Sienna, we have a daughter. I can't just leave." "You could get custody. Judges always favor the mother." But something about that felt wrong. Despite everything, Miles was a good father. Nina adored him. That night, I tried one more time to reach him. "Miles, I know you're angry, but we can work through this. We can go to counseling, figure out how to rebuild trust." He looked up from his laptop. "Trust? Althea, you've been having an emotional affair with your boss for months. You humiliated me publicly, then mocked me online. What exactly am I supposed to trust?" "I haven't been having an affair. Haven't you? The late nights, the secretive texts, the way you light up when you talk about him. Just because you haven't slept with him doesn't mean you haven't been cheating." The accusation hit me like a slap, because deep down I knew he wasn't entirely wrong. "I made mistakes," I admitted, "but that doesn't mean our marriage has to end." "Doesn't it? Because from where I'm sitting, you checked out of this marriage months ago. The party was just when everyone else noticed." He closed his laptop and stood up. "I'm going to bed. We can talk more tomorrow." But I could tell from his tone that he'd already made up his mind. Whatever consultation he'd had downtown, whatever those legal documents meant, Miles was already 3 steps ahead of me. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I was genuinely scared. The next few days passed in eerie quiet. Miles was polite but distant, treating me like a roommate he barely knew. Nina seemed to sense the tension, becoming clingy and tearful at bedtime. I decided to take control of the narrative one more time. If Miles wanted to paint me as the villain, I'd show the world who I really was. I crafted a heartfelt Facebook post, complete with a family photo from last Christmas. "Marriage isn't perfect. Sometimes we make mistakes, say things we don't mean, or let stress get the better of us. I'm human and I'm not perfect. But I love my family more than anything in this world. Sometimes the people we love most are the ones we hurt without meaning to. I'm sorry for any pain I've caused, and I'm working every day to be better. Hashtag marriage is work. Hashtag family first. Hashtag growth mindset. The responses were mixed but mostly supportive. We all make mistakes, Althea. Hang in there. Beautiful post. Marriage takes work from both people. Praying for your family during this difficult time. But there were others. Maybe think before you act next time. Your husband deserves better than a public apology. This feels like damage control. I screenshot the supportive comments and texted them to Miles. See, people understand that everyone makes mistakes. His response came back immediately. Is that what you call it? A mistake? I found him in the kitchen, making coffee with mechanical precision. Yes, Miles. It was a mistake. A moment of poor judgment that I regret. Which part was the mistake? Kissing him, posting about it online, or getting caught? All of it. The whole thing was stupid and I wish it never happened. Do you? Because you seemed pretty proud of it at the time. I wanted to scream. Nothing I said seemed to penetrate his wall of cold anger. What do you want from me, Miles? I've apologized. I've tried to make things right. What more can I do? He turned to face me, and I saw something in his eyes that made my stomach drop. Nothing, Althea. There's nothing more you can do. What does that mean? It means it's already in motion. What's in motion? But he just walked away, leaving me with my coffee growing cold and a growing sense of dread. That afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. Expect delivery tomorrow morning. I tried calling the number back, but it went straight to a generic voicemail. I showed the text to Miles when he got home. Do you know anything about this? He glanced at the message and shrugged. Probably a delivery for work. I've been expecting some documents. But something about his tone felt off. That evening, I watched him pack an overnight bag. Where are you going? My parents' house. I need some space to think. For how long? I don't know. He kissed Nina goodnight with extra tenderness, holding her longer than usual. Daddy, when are you coming home? She asked, her voice small. Soon, sweetheart. Be good for Mommy, okay? After he left, I found his house keys on the kitchen counter. Not forgotten, deliberately placed. I called Sienna in a panic. He left his keys behind. Who leaves their keys behind? Maybe he just forgot them. No, he put them on the counter, like he's not planning to come back. Althea, you're being paranoid. Am I? He's been planning something for weeks. The lawyer consultations, the documentation, the mysterious text about a delivery. What kind of delivery? I don't know, but I have a bad feeling about this. I barely slept that night, jumping at every sound, checking my phone constantly for messages that never came. The next morning, I was drinking coffee in my pajamas when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw a man in a suit holding an envelope. Althea Vane? Yes? You've been served. He handed me the envelope and walked away before I could ask any questions. With shaking hands, I tore it open. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The words swam before my eyes as I read through the legal language. Miles was filing for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, and requesting joint custody of Nina. But it was the attached documentation that made my knees buckle. Every screenshot, every logged incident, every piece of evidence he'd been collecting for months. The party video from multiple angles. My Instagram posts. Text messages between Brett and me that I'd forgotten about. Even photos of me coming home late, time-stamped and dated. There was a USB drive taped to the back page with a note. Additional digital evidence enclosed. I sank onto the couch, the papers scattered around me like the debris of my life. My phone rang. Miles. Did you get the delivery? How could you do this to me? I tried to talk to you, Althea. For months I tried, but you made your choice. What choice? I made one mistake at a party. One mistake? Althea, I have 6 months of evidence that says otherwise. I looked at the papers again, seeing them through his eyes. The pattern of late nights, secretive behavior, and emotional distance. It looked damning. Miles, please, Think about Nina. Think about our family. I am thinking about Nina. She deserves better than watching her parents destroy each other. We don't have to destroy each other. We can fix this. No, Althea, we can't. Some things can't be fixed. The line went dead. I sat there for a long time, surrounded by the legal evidence of my marriage's end. Everything I'd dismissed as harmless flirtation, every boundary I'd crossed, every lie I'd told myself, it was all there in black and white. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, I understood that Miles wasn't overreacting. He was protecting himself from me. And maybe, just maybe, I was the villain in my own story after all. The family group chat exploded within hours. Someone had told everyone about the divorce papers, probably Janice, who'd been waiting for this moment. Janice, Miles is staying with us indefinitely. He needs support right now. Graham, we're behind you 100%, son. Darla, Althea, honey, call me. We need to talk. Sienna, this is insane. Miles is destroying your family over one kiss. But it was Nina's reaction that broke my heart. When I picked her up from school, she was quiet and withdrawn. Daddy's not coming home, is he? She asked as we drove. Daddy and I are having some grown-up problems, sweetheart. But we both love you very much. Is it because of the video? The one where you kissed the man? My hands tightened on the steering wheel. It's complicated, baby. Jessie's parents got divorced last year. She said it's because her mom had a boyfriend. Nina, that's not... Do you have a boyfriend, Mommy? I pulled into our driveway and turned to face my 8-year-old daughter, seeing the confusion and fear in her eyes. No, sweetheart, I don't have a boyfriend. Mommy made some mistakes, and now Daddy and I need to figure out how to fix things. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. There was no fixing this. That evening, I called the lawyer whose card I'd found in Miles's desk. Davidson and Associates. Hi, I need to speak with someone about a divorce case. My husband filed papers today. I'm sorry, but we already represent the other party in that matter. You'll need to find your own counsel. Of course. Miles had thought of everything. I spent the next 2 days calling lawyers, most of whom quoted fees I couldn't afford on my HR assistant salary. Finally, I found one who would take payments. Mrs. Vane, I've reviewed the documents your husband filed. I have to be honest, this is going to be challenging. Challenging how? He's been very thorough in documenting what appears to be a pattern of inappropriate behavior with your supervisor. The evidence is quite compelling. It wasn't an affair. We never slept together. That may be true, but emotional infidelity can be just as damaging in divorce proceedings. Combined with the public nature of the incident at your work party. So what are my options? We can contest it, but given the evidence, I'd recommend trying to negotiate the best possible settlement, especially regarding custody. Custody. The word hit me like a physical blow. He can't take Nina away from me. He's not asking for full custody. Joint custody is standard in cases like this. Cases like what? Where one parent's behavior has created an unstable environment for the child. I hung up feeling more hopeless than ever. The next morning, I tried one last desperate move. I drove to Miles's office building and waited in the parking garage until I saw him. Miles, please, just 5 minutes. He looked tired, older somehow. The past week had aged him. Althea, we shouldn't be talking without lawyers present. Forget the lawyers for a minute. This is me, your wife of 10 years, asking you to reconsider. My wife of 10 years wouldn't have done what you did. People make mistakes, Miles. You've never made a mistake? Not like this. Not publicly humiliating the person I promised to love and honor. So that's it? 10 years of marriage, gone because of one stupid moment. He looked at me for a long moment, and I saw a flicker of the man I'd married. It wasn't one moment, Althea. It was months of you pulling away, flirting with him, coming home late, lying about where you'd been. The party was just when everyone else saw what I'd been living with. I never lied. You told me you were working late when you were at bars with him. You said his texts were about work when they were clearly personal. You made me feel crazy for being concerned about your relationship with him. Each accusation hit home because they were true. I had been lying, to him and to myself. I can change, I whispered. I know you can. But I can't go through this again. I can't spend the rest of my life wondering if you're going to humiliate me the next time you feel bored or unappreciated. Miles, I'm sorry, Althea, I really am, but this is over. He walked away, leaving me standing in the cold parking garage with tears streaming down my face. 3 weeks later, I sat in a courtroom watching my husband sign the final divorce decree. He looked calm, professional, completely in control. Everything had been decided: custody schedule, property division, alimony. He'd been fair, even generous, but firm. Nina would spend weekdays with me and weekends with him. The house would be sold and proceeds split. I'd keep my car and my retirement account. As the judge made it official, I looked around the courtroom. Graham and Janice sat behind Miles, offering quiet support. My mother sat behind me, dabbing her eyes with tissues. Sienna hadn't come. She'd lost interest once the drama died down. Congratulations, my lawyer said afterward. This was about as amicable as these things get. Amicable. As if the destruction of my family could ever be described that way. Miles approached me outside the courthouse. For what it's worth, I hope you find what you're looking for. What I was looking for was my husband's attention and affection. No, Althea. What you were looking for was excitement, validation, someone to make you feel special. I couldn't compete with that. You never tried to compete. You just watched. You're right, I did watch. I watched my wife fall in love with someone else and convince herself it was innocent. I watched her humiliate me and then blame me for being hurt. And I watched her choose her ego over her family. He started to walk away, then turned back. I hope someday you understand that love isn't about excitement or validation. It's about choosing the same person every day, even when they're boring, even when they watch from the sidelines. I chose you every day for 10 years. You chose yourself. I watched him walk toward his parents' car, his shoulders straight, his dignity intact. 6 months later, I still live in a small apartment across town. Nina adjusts between two homes with the resilience of childhood. Miles started dating someone, a quiet accountant from his firm, who probably never kisses her boss at company parties. Brett got transferred to another division. We nod politely when we pass in the hallway, but the spark is gone. It was never real anyway, just the thrill of something forbidden. I think about Miles's words often, about choosing someone every day, about love being a decision, not just a feeling. I had everything: a devoted husband, a beautiful daughter, a stable life. And I threw it away for a moment of attention, a kiss that meant nothing, the fleeting high of feeling desired. The video still surfaces occasionally on social media. Remember the HR lady who kissed her boss? But the comments have shifted from amusement to pity. That poor husband. Hope it was worth it. Some people don't know what they have until it's gone. They're right, I didn't know what I had. And now, sitting alone in my apartment while my daughter spends the weekend with her father and his new girlfriend, I finally understand the difference between being watched from the sidelines and being loved from the heart. Miles never watched from the sidelines. He was always in the game, playing for keeps, fighting for us in the only way he knew how. With quiet devotion, steady presence, and unwavering loyalty. I was the one who walked off the field, and by the time I realized what I'd lost, the game was already over.